there was a version of the show where Sacha Baron Cohen might show up, but that was also years ago. They might have changed a lot about this show.
I truly was like, oh yeah, they're going to take the Mephisto angle out. And if they don't, it would probably be at a post-credit scene.
But I am wondering, like, then what is the M?
It has to be Mephisto. If you put it in red especially, I'm like, you're going to do it.
James Gunn says, yeah, totally. People who made some of the worst movies, they were people that were lazy and didn't put their time in.
That is crazy.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. Is it happening? Is Mephisto actually going to show up in something? Marvel seems to be teasing it. Not like they've ever done that before. Wait, am I a nerd or is there something on my nose? Oh, damn it. I really thought I'd be able to pop that off.
No, it's stuck on there because you squeezed it on your noggin. Or no, you're not your honker.
A Jess was sweet, but I did have to like rip the box to squeeze it onto this stupid nose on my face.
Was the bit worth it?
That's for podcast listeners to say because they only had 1 sense to go off of. Hey, this is the sneak peek, and we're going to talk about a lot of stuff here. There's so much to talk about, from Mephisto to James Gunn tossing some dirt, putting some dirt in your eye, Kevin Feige, and we're going to figure out what exactly he's talking about. This is the weekly show and podcast where we talk about the future of Marvel fandom and what's coming down the pipeline. And honestly, some big news is coming ahead on Ironheart, it looks like, because we learned the episode titles, we learned the release dates, and there's a cryptic M in the middle of it. Jess, you're going to be breaking down Ironheart for New Rockstars. Are you excited for this show?
I'm very excited for this show. It looks like every time I've been seeing pieces, I've been like, oh yeah, the suit looks great. I think the acting's going to be great. There's so much to the casting that we barely got to see. Like I always bring her up, but Shea Coulee from RuPaul's Drag Race has now just shared online what their character is, who they're playing, which we have not been seeing in any of the teasers or any of the trailers. So I'm very excited. Not excited about those drops, but how they're doing it in bulk drops. But I mean, hey, it's not gonna sway me. It's not going to sway me. It's not going to stop me from watching it.
You're going to watch it either way. We'll all watch it either way. I mean, like, I definitely I get why Disney Plus is doing it this way. They have deeper insights into their own analytics and their viewing habits among their users. And, they did this with, they've been experimenting, moving in the Netflix direction for a while now, starting with batching, like, doing 2 episodes at a time, but then randomly in the middle of the season. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man did this at the beginning of the year. Daredevil Born Again.
I was like, Echo just dropped all at once.
Echo dropped them all at once. So Ironheart, the way it's going to work is on June 24th, you're going to have episode 1, Take Me Home. Episode 2, Will the Real Natalie Please Stand Up? And episode 3, We in Danger Girl. I mean, I love a ghost reference. And then July 1st, 1 week later, you'll get the other 3 episodes, which are titled episode 4, Black Magic, episode 5, Karma's a Glitch, and episode 6, The Past is a Past. And in the word karma of episode 5, on their episode announcement, they highlighted it in red, the letter M.
They got us.
So look, Marvel's marketing has been doing this for so many titles. I remember for Ms. Marvel, they put little devil horns on a character in the promo. In She-Hulk trailers, we saw her drinking from a devil-themed wine label. In Spider-Man No Way Home, Peter Parker walks past a protester sign that puts devil horns and a little goatee around himself. And we really do have this conspiracy theory that there's someone who works at Marvel's marketing who loves to with New Rockstars for saying that Mephisto was going to be in WandaVision. And we were wrong about that. He was not in WandaVision. There were some casting reports that came out 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago? A year and a half ago? It was a while ago that we haven't really heard Marvel confirm that someone will be playing a role. We know that Parker Robbins, the Hood, in the comics, has a cloak that is endowed to him by Dormammu. And there's some speculation that like Sacha Baron Cohen could be playing like a form of Dormammu. Some, of course, are saying, or it's going to be Mephisto. I have no idea. But I think the casting report said that like there was a version of the show where Sacha Baron Cohen might show up. But that was also 2 years ago. They might have changed a lot about this show.
Yeah, there's so much that was this show is so old now at this point. Like the show itself is new, but when they shot it, it was so long ago. Even the actors are like, yeah, we have to do press from ages ago of when we shot. They barely did a lot of pickups. I don't think they did any pickups, honestly. So I truly was like, oh yeah, they're gonna take the Mephisto angle out, and if they don't, it would probably be at a post-credit scene.
Yeah, maybe. I look, I don't want to go too far down this speculation train because I've done this before, and I get too far ahead of myself, and I'm in a different era of like my theory crafting identity on YouTube, where I'm just gonna take things as they come. I'm going to have a very open mind and not get too tunnel visioned on anything. So I'm not gonna look at this M and get too thrown by it, but I am wondering, like, then what the is the M? Like, why?
It has to be Mephisto. If you put it in red, especially, I'm like, that's WandaVision. I let you guys play with us. I let you play in our face. Even in She-Hulk, I let you play in our face, because there is also a difference. It's hard to say Mephisto without also assuming any kind of evidence to hell or any devil in any kind of Marvel property isn't Mephisto. Like, anytime we see anything that could be aligned with hell or the devil or any kind of negative religion, we're like, oh, Mephisto. So I get those ones. This, you're kind of just like, you're gonna do it. You're gonna do it. A red M in Karma.
That's what I'm thinking too, right? And then normally episode 5, like if you look at the past episode structures of other Disney Plus series in the Marvel universe, at the end of episode 5 is when they start to tease the big man behind the curtain that will come up in episode 6. In episode 5 of Loki, it's kind of set up that Kang is going to show up, at the end of in episode 6. Episode 5 of Hawkeye is when they revealed Kingpin on a cell phone camera, so that he was a big role in episode 6 of that show. But it's just with WandaVision, it didn't do that. And WandaVision and Agatha are the kind of shows where I'm like, if Mephisto's going to show up, it's going to be there. Yeah. In both of those shows, Jack Schaefer's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to have a big cameo at the final episode.
And respectfully, that was a sound idea. Of being like, it makes sense to do it here. And I think to counter that argument, or like Jack Schaefer being like, there's no big cameos here, they feel okay putting that big cameo in Ironheart, because the stakes aren't as big as with Wanda and Agatha. Yeah,
I think that's a good point. It's just they haven't, if that is the case, other than this M and then some recent promos that have shown Riri using Wanda, Doctor Strange looking runic magic, the show has not been, I guess it hasn't really marketed itself a whole lot. Like they had a Ryan Coogler promo.
And that's the problem, is we've only gone off of what we heard, like since when was the first reveal of it? It was 2020, or
they announced it at D23. D23, yeah. They announced it long before that.
But we saw, we heard evidence of what it was kind of gonna be about. Yeah. Like, we were like, oh, the hood and this. It's magic technology. And it wasn't until recently when they released, like, oh, here's the poster art that looks very sinister and looks like her, her suit has a mind of its own. It looks like a horror movie. And that's when I'm like, oh, we're getting into the supernatural, because look at the design of even the poster. Yeah. And then we get that scene in that teaser. And again, if we would have known these trailers months ago, we would have known this, but we didn't until this week. Yeah. This week.
Yeah, and that's just interesting because Sacha Baron Cohen's a big name. Yeah. Like, you would think that they'd be doing a bit more to tease that someone's coming, but maybe they're like, we really do want to surprise people with this. Yeah. I remember being at that D23, that was in August 2022. Brandon was sitting right next to me, and I remember Anthony Ramos being on stage, standing right next to Kevin Feige, and he was talking about his character. He was talking about Parker Robbins. He was talking about the hood, and then he starts doing this little awkward little dance where he's like, yeah, I want to be careful how I talk about it because I don't want to get shot. And he's like, I see Feige looking over at me, and Feige was doing this thing where he's like,
he shows his he opens his jacket, shows a little pistol.
Yeah, he does the Michael Scott he does the Michael Scott I'll kill you kind of thing. Yeah, and in that mind, I was like, oh, why is he so scared? Like, he was playing it off pretty well, but he did genuinely seem like, I could say something wrong here that will get me in big trouble. So and Kevin Feige seemed genuinely nervous that he might even joke the wrong thing. That made me think at the time, I'm like, oh, maybe let's do another show. But ever since then, the marketing has just avoided all of it. Yeah. So I'm really, I don't know. I'm 50-50.
I think also even before the Sacha Baron Cohen scandal stuff that's coming out recently, I think that character himself as Sacha Baron Cohen doesn't really give what Disney wants. Like the last movie he did, which was, I was like, yeah, he's making these people look like fools. He's showing off the worst side of America. I don't think Disney's like, oh, we should be really like, showing off this man. Also, if you even search Sacha Baron Cohen, like the first IMDb credit is going to be Borat. Borat and what was the other bad one? The European guy that was very weird.
Oh, Bruno.
Bruno.
But I mean, of the time, it was like kind of this provocative character humor that, you know, people loved in the aughts. And Borat did come back during the first Trump administration.
I just
and that
don't
movie was pretty good.
Yeah, no, 100. That's why I'm like, I don't think Disney wants to talk about too much of a political figure like what he was doing, even satirical. And again, the scandal also adds to it. I'm just coming from a PR.
Can we touch on the scandal a little bit?
We should talk about it.
Because a lot of people are like, the did he do?
Yeah, no, 100%. All I know is, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was mainly the beef that was between him and Rebel Wilson. And what Rebel Wilson said that happened on set between the two. I don't know what film it was on.
I don't know what they had worked on together either. But from what I understand, she was going to talk about it in her book. And then his people like pressured her publisher to not include that in the book.
Again, we are loosely accounting for what I remember from that, like 2022. It had to be like 2021. But essentially, he was sexually harassing her on set, or what she,
according to
Rebel Wilson's claims, that he was sexually harassing her on set, which didn't really seem like, which that's the sad part, didn't seem too surprising from Sacha Baron Cohen's character, as like he plays a very outwardly aggressive, sexually aggressive character in a lot of his roles.
Well, and I think there have been a lot of like provocateur performers who do man on the street stuff who like to kind of dance around that line and like to make people uncomfortable, and they kind of have a very forward humor that puts people in an uncomfortable position. So who knows? So the movie was the 2016 film The Brothers Grimsby, and during an appearance on an Australian radio show in 2014, Rebel Wilson described Baron Cohen's alleged on-set harassment, saying, "Every day he's like, just go naked. It'll be funny. Remember in Borat when I did the naked scene? It was hilarious." And she said, "On the last day, I thought I'd obviously won the argument, and he got a body double to do the naked scene." And then she says that he took things further, and he said, "Rebel, can you just stick your finger up my butt?" And I went, "What do you mean, Sasha? That's not in the script," Wilson said. And he said, "Look, I'll just pull down my pants. You just stick your finger up my butt. It'll be a really funny bit." So yeah, that is what she said happened while they were shooting that movie. And she was going to go into that more in the book. And there was some controversy of who, like his people trying to stop press around her book coming out where these things are claimed.
Which doesn't help the situation at all.
It does not mean that is not proof of guilt. That just may mean like, I don't want this stuff out there because I'm refuting it. You know, it doesn't want it. He's probably like, why are you talking about this on New Rockstars? But it's just like, well, it's out there.
Well, you ask your co-star to put a finger up your butt. I would never ask you to do that.
Here's what I'll say. So we are reading an article from The Cut, and this article came out.
What year was it? Yeah,
this came out like a year ago. But the thing is, if Sacha Baron Cohen was in the show, that was all shot before a lot of this controversy came up. Also, he has been in a lot of stuff since then. A lot of Disney properties. He voiced a character in what's it called? Luca. He voiced a character in Luca. He was in Trial of Chicago 7. Again, some of that stuff was earlier than what I'm talking about, but like I don't think his career's been dented.
No, I don't think it's been dented. I think showing up on because also this is my first time hearing he was even in Luca. So it's like, I don't think people know
like the
that.
uncle of the mermaid
the one
family.
That was like, my heart hurts.
Who would like cough.
I love that character in that movie. That is my favorite character in that movie. But I think it's just more like that fear a little bit. And I do think Disney still has a little bit of that fear. I think they're straying away from that fear in Marvel because they have Tenoch Huerta coming back to reprise his role as Namor.
Again, so, we're not going to go into that. You can research that on your own time because it's a whole thing there.
It's a very big thing there. Yeah. But then it's like, we're also not taking back, again, look this up and do it yourself, but we're also not taking back Jonathan Majors. So there's like, that's why I'm like, I think Marvel's trying to understand how far they can stretch and do it. And I don't think this what Sacha Baron Cohen and Rebel Wilson is affecting like Ironheart in that degree. It's just more about the promos. They're like, maybe they can think about that, but also on top of it, he's such a big surprise. Why would they give that away? That was like the biggest thing that came out on Variety or Hollywood Reporter when Sacha Baron Cohen was showing up for Marvel. They were like, Mephisto.
Yeah. But even then at the time, I was like, are they just saying that because they like Google things? And then like us and like 4 other channels showed up saying like, we need Mephisto in the MCU.
But if you put him in that trailer, everyone's going to know it's Mephisto.
Definitely. That is true. That is true.
If you put him in that trailer, and then that kind of takes away from Ironheart, to be fair, a little bit.
And I think if Mephisto does show up in this, it's going to be interesting to see how it fits in with the Ironheart story, because she is an engineer. And that's what I love about her, is like she scientists her way out of things, but she is also using magic, which kind of feels like she's fusing tech with magic. And I know you and Brandon talked about this last week, and I think that it's going to be just like an interesting next step for her. Yeah. But for that magic to also be demonic magic is like a giant leap. I think
well, and also again, she's just a regular human, and I think that's the only form of magic maybe only a regular human can get a hold of. Like, I don't know if a regular human can get a hold of the dark hold and be like, I'm gonna use these signs because I can read it. But demonic magic is like, yeah, you can take this, it's just a curse, it's just a spell.
Yeah, so because it's being thrust upon you by someone who wants your soul.
And that's the thing. I also don't think they thought about this at all. We just talked about it last week, me and Brandon, that I was like, this gives her bigger stakes in the MCU. Yeah. She's not just a machine anymore. She's a machine made of magic. Yeah. That could actually kind of go against Century. Definitely, that she could bring her suit into her manifestations of whatever her bad memory is, probably.
I love that idea. Yeah, and I think we're gonna have to start understanding how that process works with Doctor Doom and how the borderline between magic and science, which Thor told us back in 2011 isn't a real border at all.
Also, I don't know if they changed the plan too much, but I went back to that quote where Kevin Feige was talking about Werewolf by Night and was like, we are going to get into this side of the universe in the MCU, and starting here is a really good step. And I went, oh, he's setting up for Mephisto. I don't know why I immediately was like, Werewolf by Night is a direct link to Mephisto. But I was like, oh, if they're trying to do the supernatural world, not for Wanda and Doctor Strange, but like actual Ghost Rider, Mephisto, the Midnight Suns, I was like, oh, they probably had this in mind for a long time to bring Mephisto and align him in the world just so he can up everything. He can just up everything. I don't think he's going to be playing like a super huge character, but he's just going to be messing people up, like being annoying.
I prefer to live in an MCU where there is a Mephisto. I think that's just generally a more interesting,
just a bad,
scarier place.
Just a guy that's like, you can sell your soul to me.
Yeah. I mean, that's the Marvel Comics universe is more interesting when there's a Mephisto. And I think it's not like he has to be an active plot point and everything, but it's just like establish that he exists and he may have like had conversations with characters. Okay. It's fun.
So if he exists, because you know how they like to kind of separate Marvel Television and the MCU. Do you think it's just gonna be like what Mephisto and and Mr. Sinister from X-Men? Do you think they're gonna be like hanging out? Well, they can hang out technically. They're both like metaphysical.
I feel like Sinister might have made a deal with Mephisto, like knowing what he's into and how long he's been around. I think we'd have to wonder, everyone who has this type of knowledge that seems to be beyond the average human, like, how'd they get that? Who helped them?
Magic has to talk to him. Like, someone, like some X-Men that's weirdly weird has to be able to be like, oh yeah, Mephisto, I know that guy.
Yeah. So I when I saw that they were going to do just 2 batches, 3 episodes June 24th, 3 episodes July 1st, I tweeted this, and I think a lot of people were like, what does he know? And really all I was just saying is like, every single one of these shows has stuff that happens in the finale that wouldn't have happened in episode 4. And so dropping 3 episodes, including the finale on the same night, there's going to be people who rush to watch them right away and are going to start tweeting about it, and people are going to just get spoiled. And so like, that's just kind of the bummer of doing this. It would have been preferable, in my opinion, if they had done 2 episodes. At least give us 3 weeks, because I think watching 2 episodes in a night is pretty doable. But watching 3 episodes, just for a lot of folks, it's not.
100%.
So I don't mind clumping them together a little bit if that's how you feel like more people are going to watch it that way. But that just means we're only going to have like 8 days. Like the full season of Ironheart will just be 8 days. And with Andor, at least we had a month of Andor. We had multiple weeks of Andor. And yeah, the conversations were often bifurcated. People were not on the same timeline as everyone else. But like by the time Andor ended, it felt like, okay, well, at least we all had a month of living in Andor together. And also, there weren't that many surprises at the end of Andor. We know it's all headed to the Battle of Yavin, and the only surprise is like the very final shot. But even contextually, looking at that, you don't really know what that means.
Well, do you think that Disney is still keeping into account, like, they're trying to own the narrative of how, like, not own the narrative, but own the schedule? I'm not saying they're doing this, but do you think they're kind of pigeonholing us into watching it when it all drops? Do you think this is actually a part of their plan to kind of, not as punishment, but just to be like, oh, if you don't want spoilers, you have to watch at this time. All of you guys have to watch within this window. Because I do think they understand that Andor is catered to an older audience. And they're like, yeah, people just watch when they can. So it's not going to be huge spoilers if you are late. But Ironheart, that's 3 hours. It's like, you're forcing me to have to watch it at this time, all 3 episodes, in order to not be spoiled.
I think that's part of it. And Marvel Studios has done that with the whole opening weekend philosophy for a long time. I mean, Thunderbolts, right? Like you had to watch that in the opening weekend because the following Monday they did the new Avengers reveal. So like I think Marvel Studios, I think what it is they understand they have a core inner circle of fans who will watch stuff in the first 24 hours. And then for the people in the second outer tier of who get to it in the first 7 days, they're kind of like, you're on your own. Figure it out. And honestly, I feel like if Marvel Studios had a secondary viewing experience for those people who also felt like they didn't miss out, like if they didn't hinge so much of their stuff on these surprise cameos and took care of those 7-day audiences, they wouldn't be having the kind of stagnation that people are saying they're having right now.
So then what's the benefit of it if that's the case? Like, I just don't understand. And this might just be me being blind to it. I just don't see the benefit even in the opening day, like the analytics. I'm like, okay, views 100%. Does that equal directly the money that you're getting in the long term?
I don't know how they price it and how they monetize it, to be honest. But I do think that based off of what I know about the Netflix algorithm and how these other platforms, Prime Video, Disney Plus, are also doing it, is they really value watch hours.
Yeah, 100%.
And on Disney Plus, you don't have a ton of other shows. Like you're watching it for whatever the Star Wars or the Marvel thing. Maybe if you have a Hulu package, you can also watch The Bear or something on your Disney Plus. But it's not the way Netflix works, where there's just like a ton of other stuff. Prime Video, there's a lot of other stuff. On Peacock, just another episode of The Office or Parks and Rec will start. So a lot of people just subscribed it for that. Disney Plus, like by just having these one shows, doing it weekly for them hasn't worked out, because like once you're done watching that one episode of Daredevil Born Again, like where do you go? You leave the Disney Plus platform. So their whole goal is to just keep people logged into that Disney Plus platform, using it for as many hours of their night as they can. So giving them 3 episodes of Ironheart instead of just 1 or 2 just keeps people in, so that they're not going to leave Disney Plus to go to Netflix instead.
It has to make me believe that like the traffic that they're driving makes them more money than it just feels crazy. But to echo what you're saying is true. When you look up any of the just like what was the benefit of like Falcon and the Winter Soldier or any of these shows, they always say which one had the best watch time. Yeah. And they're always comparing like Moon Knight to Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Loki to WandaVision. And I'm like, yeah, they care way more about that like watch time and how many people are staying on there than how long it stays and how many people come back. They leave and come back.
Well, watch time here on YouTube, we monitor it very closely. It is a very big deal, but YouTube measures things differently because like you get either money from like mid-roll ads that pop up, so view duration helps the algorithm promote your channel more, or if people have like a paid subscription or something so they don't get those mid-roll ads, we get a cut of that small like pennies on the dollar cut of that. So but you don't get pop-up ads on Disney Plus. They might start, there's certain like Amazon has started to put ads on stuff.
You have to pay to not get the goddamn
ads. You have to pay to not get ads. I don't think Disney has done that yet.
But
there might be a tier of it where you do.
I have the 3-way one that's like Hulu and the other
okay,
one,
yeah.
So I don't know.
So I really don't know how they're doing it. I honestly think it's like a subscriber non-subscriber rate. So like if you just watch one thing on Disney Plus or you miss it that week or whatever it is, if you don't go on Disney Plus after a week, maybe there's some like certain rate where people are more likely to unsubscribe from it. But if you spend more of your night on it, you're probably like, oh, well, I'm not going to unsubscribe from that because I did spend a lot of my week watching Disney Plus.
And does Disney Plus, I like that we're not getting into a conversation about the analytics. I promise it all makes sense when you're trying to understand why they're doing these like bulk drops. They did it with, or they didn't really, but dropping it even during the holidays makes sense. But do you think there's a difference, not only in analytics, but in the monetization of it being a streaming platform instead of being like a big TV?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. There's definitely a difference in that, like, you know, people are paying just upfront at the month to get all their stuff. So the money's already in the bank. You're not relying on advertising from advertising revenue because, you know, most of the time, if you're a TV network, ABC back in the 90s and 2000s, they made their money from like Allstate and Budweiser paying for ads that played in the mid-roll point of the episode. The whole economics have changed to where what's crazy, you can listen to a lot of other more experts, bigger
that literally
experts on
only
TV
handle
history.
the analytics of TV history. Yeah,
but
100%.
like they got so spooked by Netflix that they threw away what was a successful business model.
Yep, they did.
Like the TV business model worked for 60 years. And they threw it away in 3 years.
Isn't that crazy?
Because Netflix scared them that
Isn't
much.
that crazy? How and it was quick.
And none of them were as successful at Netflix at it. They all failed. They just threw away a good thing.
No, they weren't. And I wish we could have just let Netflix been Netflix and kept the other, but then it was the cost.
It was
and
also
it was
the technological shift.
Yeah.
You know, people were moved. They were cord cutting.
I'm not getting
more and more.
DVDs anymore. I went to Blu-ray, and then the Blu-ray went away, and now I'm doing digital. And now you should have physical copies of things, but we're decreasing. We don't want it anymore. Yeah. Remember, Netflix started as a DVD company.
It used to be, and then it became Quickster / Netflix, two different companies. Yeah, it's a bummer.
Sorry.
It's a bummer. And like now, we can talk about this for hours, but like your options, if you want to watch something that you love, you better hope you're subscribing to the thing.
You better have it, or
you better have it.
You're buying it.
And you can't always find it.
You're buying it.
Sometimes they aren't even printing old like movies that from the 80s and early 90s that you liked.
I can't explain it, but I can't find this one movie. I can't remember the movie as I couldn't find it, and I also could not find it anywhere digitally. So then I had to buy it. And then like 3 months later, it shows up on Paramount Plus. I go, they knew this. Yeah. They knew this is why you should get your holiday movies, your seasonal movies and TV shows, all physical media. Yeah. Or else they're going to make Home Alone free in July. But as soon as October hits, that's going to cost you $15.99.
And then if you say, do what I did and buy Elf so that you have it in your Prime Video library.
Oh, no.
Who knows what happens when Jeff Bezos is like, I want to colonize Mars, so let's just sell off everything that we have and just cancel doing this type of business, and then I don't have it anymore. So we also, by the way, have Elf the DVD. I don't know why. I think Kelly's DVDs were still back at her parents' storage place in Chicago. So like we now have two different versions
good.
of Elf.
That's what you should have. The only physical media, or like other than video games, DVDs I have are complete full series of things. So I have like Daria. And like,
that's great.
I got Rocko's Modern Life. I got all the Nickelodeon shows. I was like, let me get all of these because they're not going to be. Look, I'm a child of the Disney Vault, so I know what Nickelodeon. When everyone went digital, Nickelodeon was nowhere, and then it went to CBS. And I was like, I don't want CBS. I would only use CBS to watch Nickelodeon. Well, you watch Survivor, don't you? Is CBS on Survivor?
CBS, you do have to have Paramount Plus to watch Survivor.
Okay, that's good.
And honestly, Paramount Plus is getting the most usage at our house these days.
Yeah, reality TV, they got all of it. Because I think Paramount was also how I was watching RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yes.
But like CBS, the app, I was like, I'm only doing this to watch Rocket Power. Why don't I just own Rocket Power? So that's my rant on physical media versus digital. And so about these bulk drops, what were you
about these bulk drops? I get why they're doing it because it's more valuable to them to have 3 episodes at a time. But I just feel like structurally with what may happen in the second half of the season, and we'll only have 8 weeks with Ironheart, and I just wish we could have like 3 or 8 weeks. We only have 8 days. I wish we could have 3 weeks.
But remember when we were looking at the math, if they were doing it weekly, it would have premiered the week of Fantastic Four. That was like it landed on.
Well, they could have released it earlier. They could have
100%. 100%.
Yeah, the first week of June and just Ironheart June. You know,
we don't need to stay on it too much longer, but. That I do think they're using right now as the window to test the Marvel television and animation. Yeah, they're like they're testing it, so you're gonna see different weird numbers for a while until they settle on one that really, really worked. And I'll tell you right now, that Echo shit did not work. Do not drop every episode at once. Yeah. I'll lose my mind if you do that for Daredevil Born Again.
Wasn't it interesting? Even Netflix is kind of meeting them halfway. They're moving away from just all at once and instead doing like batches.
Yeah, Bridgerton and Stranger Things.
Yeah, Stranger Things, Bridgerton, Squid Game kind of did a 2.5 seasons. Yeah. So interesting times. I do want to touch on these quotes from James Gunn in his interview with Rolling Stone. Because this guy is a fascinating human being. I love him. He has a tendency to overshare, and we love that here at New Rockstars. So they talked to him about, Superman's coming out, his plan for DC Studios, the lessons he learned from Marvel Studios. There's 2 chunks of quotes. The first, there's one that comes a little bit later that I want to start with. Okay. They say, over at Marvel, they've been pretty open about the fact that they realize what's gone wrong over the past few years. They put out too much stuff. And James Gunn said, and Louis D'Esposito said that privately to me, I don't even know if it's really their fault. Louis D'Esposito is a longtime Marvel executive producer, the kind of also running the studio next to Kevin Feige.
Okay.
So he just says, Lou and I talk all the time still. And then the interviewer says they were under a corporate mandate. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
And James Gunn said that wasn't fair, it wasn't right, and it killed them.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I was about to ask. I was about to follow up with like, well, was it Keep going.
And then he had, they're like, well, what lessons did you learn? And he goes, well, we're not trying to have a certain amount of movies and TV shows every year. We're just going to put out everything that we think is of the highest quality. And he even said he killed the DC project because his script wasn't ready. But here's the other quote. The interviewer asked, Eddie Murphy once told me that nearly every bad movie happens because of Hollywood's habit of setting a production date before they have a finished screenplay. Kind of shots fired at Marvel there. And then James Gunn says, yeah, totally. Listen, you can do everything right and make a bad movie. I'm really compassionate towards people that put their all into a movie. I know some people that were my former workers at Marvel, people who made some of the worst movies. They were people that were lazy and didn't put their time in.
That is crazy.
And he says, and then there were other directors that worked really hard and maybe didn't have the best movie come out, but they did everything they could. I do believe that the reason why the movie industry is dying is not because of people not wanting to see movies. It's not because of home screens getting so good. The number one reason is because people are making movies without a finished screenplay.
Ooh,
wow.
I know damn well that second part is about Chloe Zhao and Eternals.
Okay.
That poor woman put a lot of work into it, even in the design. She wanted everything as good as it could possibly be. And let me tell you, I ain't watching that movie ever again in my life.
I think he's crediting her. I do have to say, but Mr. Gunn, there have been examples of great movies that did not have a finished screenplay, or great movies that were just still figuring out the screenplay as they went. And maybe that only worked. If he's saying that should not be an industry standard, yes, I agree.
100%.
But I think that's not the number one reason why people that Hollywood is dying. I think honestly, streaming is a bigger reason than that.
No, he's saying, and also he's talking and pertaining to himself. So also, what is his level of good and what's our level of? Is he talking about art, or is he talking about Deadpool Wolverine? Because we were also the script was kind of weird. It was a little bit all over the place. I don't know if I got what I got, but it was very fun and it did successfully so freaking well. Yeah. So are you talking about I want to know what what his walls are, what he's talking about. But I do think I know what the director he thinks are lazy.
I think if you were trying to build a franchise, yeah, I think you do need to have completed good scripts before you pick a next release date. He's right about that. He's not just looking at it as a singular movie, because sometimes a great director can just want to work with a great team and they kind of figure out the story as they go. Christopher McQuarrie with Tom Cruise and Henry Cavill on Mission Impossible Fallout, they did not have a completed script.
And it was still fun.
And that movie rocks.
I love that movie.
But I think that's yes, it is part of a series, but I think in that movie they weren't thinking about how it would spin off these other characters, and then there'd be a team up of these two other characters.
That one's a hard example to also make, because Tom Cruise is always gonna hop, skip, jump, fall into what his script is.
Right, he's gonna be I kind of want to figure out how to pull a helicopter out of a nosedive in a ravine. Can he build a movie around that?
That is not in the script. I tell you right. This says a helicopter, whatever, and then he has to just act out the action.
So I think James Gunn is right that it is more important than I think most studios and franchises have given it credit for, of having just a really good, nearly bulletproof screenplay. And I think what he's saying is because the screenplay is an outline for a movie. It is not a finished movie. So you have to have at least a really good blueprint and an outline for a movie before you start, because otherwise, anything can happen.
Yeah, 100%.
Things are going to be chaotic on a film set throughout production. Notes coming in, actors having their kind of diva meltdowns, and you're going to have to change things along the way. Production budget constraints, all kinds of reasons.
But who do you think he said was lazy?
Who is he talking about?
Who do you think
he
said and that was a little hard in. He literally said, they are lazy. They don't do their job well. That's kind of crazy.
Well, it's hard to know because, he said, my past collaborators at Marvel.
He said former. Read it again. Read it one more time. Because he's a former. He's a former coworker.
There were. I know some people that were my former workers at Marvel. People who made some of the worst movies, and it's hard because they transcribed what he said in this article, but we weren't in the room with James Gunn, and we don't know where the punctuations were. So it could have been people who worked on here's the thing about James Gunn.
Okay.
He shot 3 Guardians of the Galaxy movies. He also shot 3 post-credit scenes. He shot the post-credit scene he shot the Stan Lee cameo for Doctor Strange when he was in the bus. He shot the Stan Lee cameo when I believe it was Spider-Man Homecoming when Stan stuck his head out the window and he goes, "Hey, keep it down there," or whatever. And then he shot the Stan Lee cameo in Guardians Volume 2 where he's talking to the Watchers. So he worked with a lot of different people across all these productions.
Did Taika set him up or did he set Taika up for the beginning of Thor: Love and Thunder?
Oh, okay. So I don't think James Gunn did anything for Thor: Love and Thunder other than maybe looked at a script at some point for the dialogue. But it's not like it was in Avengers Endgame where James Gunn did pitch a lot of those jokes and did punch up that script when the Guardians were like, when Rocket says all words are made up and talk about how muscular this pirate is.
For a Spiderweb, he's worked with a lot of people. I also think former colleagues, former workers kind of... loose term.
Yeah,
because former workers kind of sounds like they worked for you, but I think it's just like your colleague.
I think that's what he's saying. Yeah. So just to run through the list of suspects of people he could be calling lazy.
Oh no.
Just Marvel directors during the time James Gunn was directing films for Marvel. That could include Joss Whedon, the Russo brothers, could include Peyton Reed.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Could include Scott Derrickson, Ryan Coogler.
It ain't.
The Russo brothers. Did I say the Russo brothers?
No, you didn't.
The Russo brothers are on that list, a suspect. It could include Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, who directed Captain Marvel. Could include Scott. I mentioned Scott Derrickson.
Yeah, you did.
I'm jumping around. Kate Shortland, who directed Black Widow. Destin Daniel Cretton, who directed Shang-Chi. Chloe Zhao, who directed Eternals. Sam Raimi, who did Multiverse of Madness. Nia DaCosta, who directed The Marvels. John Watts, who directed the Spider-Man trilogy. Julius Ona, who directed Brave New World. Jake Schreier, who directed Thunderbolts. And then Sean Levy, who directed Deadpool and Wolverine. And Taika Waititi, who directed Thor: Love and Thunder and Thor Ragnarok.
Oh my god. There's 3 that I laughed at. There's 3 that I chuckled at. I don't think it's Joss Whedon.
I think he respects.
I think he respects Joss Whedon. Yeah.
James Gunn and Joss Whedon actually go really far back. The first big payday James Gunn ever received as the screenwriter was from Joss Whedon to pay him to write a pilot back in the late 90s. We never saw that pilot. We don't know what it was, but he got a $75,000 check from Joss Whedon. Will you write this pilot for me? And so like I think the two of them have had a good working relationship.
And with the whole DC thing, his relationship is with Joss, not with Zack Snyder.
Yeah. Well, James Gunn knew Zack Snyder well too.
He did. But
he wrote Dawn of the Dead, and I think he respects Zack. I think James Gunn doesn't have that many enemies. He's friends with everybody.
I don't think it's respect more than it's just like, ooh, that was hard for you and you did it.
Yeah.
And now it's my turn. I don't think it's Joss though. I don't think it's Joss at all.
Don't think it's Joss.
I laughed when you said Sean Levy. Now I don't. No, I don't want to get into it.
But James Gunn would know Sean Levy as well. Both of them have worked in the similar circles for a long time.
I'm not even gonna open that door of Sean Levy, but the Russo brothers.
Okay, so now we're getting to it. I do think he's referring to the Russo brothers here. Because a lot of people say, he's talking about Taika Waititi, obviously. Because everyone had an impression of Taika Waititi coming out of Thor: Love and Thunder, where he seemed, quote unquote, lazy, at least in the way that he was like talking about his production of it.
But really think about it.
I think James Gunn has respect of the guy who directed Hunt for the Wilder People, Jojo Rabbit. And like, I don't think he views someone as Taika as, quote unquote, lazy. But
get into it. Get into it.
There's something about the Russo brothers who I very much respect.
Yes.
But when they talk about their craft, doesn't it seem like they're always sitting in chairs? I love these guys.
Same. You guys, you don't understand how much I wanted them back, but they are sat. And they said, let's put all visual effects up in this bitch.
And it's not just visual effects. I think it's like when they do talk about their process, at least on Infinity War and Endgame, their VFX supervisor, Dan Deliu, who directed episode 203 of Loki, he's the VFX guy who composes all the previs, and they defer to him for a lot of it.
That's what I'm saying.
I think it's like the big action sequences in their movies, at least in Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame, I think it was Marvel's previs guy and stunt coordinators who were figuring out the action of it. And then they just kind of like were on a team as opposed to having like a strong vision of like, this is what I want for it. And they don't seem to be that jazzed or excited about like shooting action. Like in the same Rolling Stone interview, James Gunn is like, I realize I love shooting action. And you can see that in all of his works. He has a specific, and Zack Snyder is this way too. Like they love thinking about where the camera's going to go, how it's going to show that person getting punched in the face, where it's going to go from there, how that's going to edit together with like a match cut of someone else getting punched. Like this person's going to uppercut this person who's going to bonk into this rock, and that rock's going to crumble down like a mousetrap into this other person. And like a lot of great, Jackie Chan would compose his sequences that way as a stunt person, and that is how James Gunn approaches it. And I think when he's tossing shade at other Marvel directors, that's what he's talking about. I don't think he's talking about Destin Daniel Cretton.
No, I also think a lot of those, which is so sad to say, or at least for me personally looking at this list, I was like, there's such a diverse list of people here that try really, really hard to stay. When I said VFX, Ryan Coogler would rather do anything but that. Like, he's like, let me see how much practical I can put in this because I want us to actually feel it. And I also feel like the same way with Nia DaCosta a little bit. She was like, can I try? And they were like, well, you got 3 characters that fly. That's going to be impossible, my girl. And so I'm like, these are people that really want to like, to make a dance out of it, to get those sequences that are like so physical fights that it's like, no, they have to touch each other. It all has to happen here before it goes to the VFX team. And the Russos, even with the Netflix movie, I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's where their heart lies, or not like lies in, but is like what they first start in. They're like thinking about the script first and how everyone's introduced and talking. And then they're like, oh yeah, I forgot. I
think they're very good comedy directors just from everything they did on Community and Arrested Development. You know, they're when they came into the MCU, I think they directed Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and that was such a departure. There was some humor in it, but there was some great action. And I think what they proved there is their ability to coordinate a team of creatives and elevate and trust great department heads. Yeah. And not every director can do that. Like, I wish James Gunn did that more in some of his works, honestly. Is like, I think the Russo brothers are just good at being like, seeing a stunt team rehearse something and being like, yeah, just do that. Yeah. And not all directors can do that. Like, so much of direction in the MCU is ego management. Yeah. And just understanding like, we need to make sure something big happens with Thor here because the audience is going to feel shortchanged if you don't have something big happen here.
Do you think that's also why he kind of said like, kind of lazy about it, because he's so hands-on with his like 5-person team or whatever, that the Russos are just really good at balancing 20 people that all are divas? Yeah. Because I'm like, I could see as a director you looking at it and being like, they're just good at making sure the Benedict Cumberbatch doesn't throw a milkshake at an intern. Yeah. But like that is, it's weird. It's weird in Hollywood. But for those movies, I'm like, yeah, he was able to work with every single person. Yeah. Who I could not even imagine. Oh my God. In Endgame, I'd be so mad at everybody. I'd be like, get over here. Stop yelling about anti-vax. Like, stop it. Stop! Will you stop? What's her name? Gwyneth Paltrow. Stop it! Stop it with the bone broth. Like it would be so hard to do damage control on those sets.
Yeah, it's gonna sound like, wait, so they're just good like SAT test proctors who just keep a calm demeanor? That's part of it, yes. But also, it's not just babysitting. It's like setting a tone for all the departments. Yeah, and just like keeping everyone chill and having that big picture of the film in your head. And not every director can do that. A lot of directors at Marvel get lost in the weeds, 100. And the Russos haven't. They can keep like they know what the big picture is going to look like, and they know when to kill their darlings. One thing I'll give them credit for is they don't have an ego. No, like they will gut entire sequences that was just like quippy dialogue that they loved being able to direct, of all the Avengers in a trench, you know, making fun of each other. They gutted that whole scene from the movie, and I don't know if directors like James Gunn would be willing to do that.
No, I don't think James Gunn does it that much. Or maybe he does kill his darlings. There's so many scenes in like the second Suicide Squad movie where I was like, oh, we didn't really need this, but it was funny and I enjoyed it.
It's just, do we want our directors to be indulgent and have like would you watch every director's cut? Or do you think the studio has a role to make sure the movie adheres to their brand?
And that, I don't know, I think that's the complex issue of like what kind of artist you want to see yourself as. Because I think there are people that are like, I want that director's cut.
Yeah.
I want the director's
I kind of
cut.
want I'm going to watch both probably.
I'm gonna watch both. I mean, you're out of your mind. I'm gonna
But
watch
I
both.
love a good director's cut.
I went with both on Zack
I guess
Snyder's Justice League.
Once a director has proven himself.
I'm just more. I just want to see what they took out.
right. Even when it's like not a controversial shift, you know, like I liked watching Zack Snyder's ultimate cut of Batman v Superman because it's just like if I'm gonna watch Zack Snyder, just hook it into my veins.
100%.
I want to experience everything he had in mind for this, for good or for bad.
And that's why,
because I know who he is. Like not all directors, a first-time director, I kind of want to see how they tried to live up to the pitch from the studio.
And that's and it sucks because with Marvel, a lot of these, I think they tested those waters with like Destin Daniel Cretton, and I think they're still testing it with Destin Daniel Cretton. I think they want Destin Daniel Cretton to be able to do like the big ones, but they're like still like, oh, let's keep every step. Every step will be a larger project. They're going to try to get him there. But like, I don't think, and this is the most respectful way, like throwing that all on like Nia DaCosta at once feels like a lot. Cause she like, and I love her horror movies, but I'm like, that's not fair. Like we just kind of threw it all and we're like, you can do this, right?
Yeah. It was interesting.
Traversing the Marvel
and it was a
steps.
very difficult, odd project for any director to take on.
Yeah. And it's not just me running for Nia DaCosta. I think, Quantumania.
Well, here's the thing. I think Peyton Reed is an example of a colleague of James Gunn that he's actually saying a very talented person who put everything he could into it.
Yeah, he tried.
Because everyone makes fun of Quantumania, but like Peyton Reed is exactly the type of director that James Gunn is, someone who comes from comedy, sometimes some raunchy comedy, but seems to be a very nice person who everyone likes and is a very sensitive person as well, and tried to establish just some like, you know, outlaw type characters who have to team up with other people and everyone's kind of making fun of each other. It's the same kind of energy, comedic energy that exists both in the Ant-Man movies and in the Guardians movies. And so I think his heart goes out to someone like Peyton Reed after Quantumania, where that was just kind of rushed into a greenlighting process and trying to do way too much.
If he can't be talking about Scott fucking Derrickson. He can't be talking about Scott Derrickson. Scott Derrickson only got to do the first Doctor Strange, right? He didn't get to do anything else.
And he parted ways with Marvel for Multiverse of Madness. Yeah, I really think he's talking about the Russo brothers.
I think he's talking about the Russo brothers. Who would be second if it's not the Russo brothers? It's not Jake Schreier, is it?
I don't think he knows Jake Schreier that
Jake
well.
Schreier, is Jake Schreier new to us? Or is it just that he did, what's the TV show?
Beef.
He did Beef. So he is kind of new.
And I don't think it's Sam Raimi, because Sam Raimi.
No, I think
cooked with Multiverse of Madness.
And
like you cannot say that was not Sam Raimi's movie.
And that's the thing. It was a Sam Raimi movie. You know what you're getting when it's a Sam Raimi movie. So that's why I don't think it's him either.
Yeah.
I don't think he's talking about.
I think he's referring to them and maybe some other like, you know, recurring VFX producers and second unit directors who he's worked with.
I'm sorry, it has to be the Russo brothers. Looking at that list, it's got to be.
Okay, before we get into the next week on New Rockstars, we have a little announcement here. It's actually a pretty big announcement. So one thing that we're going to start doing more on New Rockstars is podcasting, and you may already listen to the sneak peek as a podcast. If you do, we really, really appreciate you. We have always wanted to touch on some subjects that we talk about here behind the scenes at New Rockstars, and we realized like, that shouldn't be spoken about on YouTube. People are just going to take it out of context. But there are followers of us who probably do want to hear that. And I think it's interesting conversations, but like we can't justify spending all of our time doing that at New Rockstars. So we came up with this experiment that we're just going to try out, and we're calling it NR Underground. And it's a subscription service that you can, if you want to, if you're able to, pay for. And it's a $5 a month thing. And what you get in exchange for that $5 is like, we're going to start doing an exclusive podcast just for people who buy into that. And that exclusive podcast is called The Danger Room. That's the first one. And if you feel like, wait, what? Don't worry. The Danger Room is going to be very tangential, very indulgent, soapboxy type stuff. It's not. If you can't buy into that, you're not going to miss that much because it's not like the essential conversations that you sign up for New Rockstars for. Everything we currently do on New Rockstars, on YouTube, on podcasting that's publicly available to everyone, we're going to continue doing that and more for you. And we have some really fun other announcements that we're going to have later this year. This is just for like Brandon and Zach want to talk about wrestling for a little bit, or Erik and John want to whine about how we're not actually Marvel shills. It's kind of just like the kind of stuff that like, it probably shouldn't be put out on YouTube because it's just a little too personal and indulgent, but like we're not afraid to talk about it in front of an audience. So we're going to talk about it in the danger room where things are just a little too dangerous, a little too real for YouTube, but could work in like a smaller, intimate space. So we're going to try that out, and you can access that by clicking the link in the description of this video, and it's part of this service called NR Underground. And beyond the danger room, if this experiment works out, we want to see if there's like other new shows, and we want to hear your thoughts on what you want to hear us talk about that maybe isn't like what we normally talk about on New Rockstars. And we can only really do this if we do it this way. If it doesn't work out, well, we don't have to keep doing it, but we'd like to continue trying it and give you guys an option to try it out too. So we appreciate you guys supporting us, and hopefully we'll see you in the danger room. All right, looking ahead to this week on New Rockstars, we have the premiere of Ironheart that is coming on June 24th, and Jessica, your Easter egg breakdown's coming out June 25th of all 3 episodes in one video. So that'll be fun.
A 3-hour breakdown.
It could be. I believe.
I add more to the minutes
Yeah,
than we
please do.
watched.
Yeah, it's longer. I mean, hey, we've done that with trailers.
That's true. Oh, wait. Well, that's all. Yeah, all our trailer breakdowns are at least 10 minutes longer than the trailer.
I think it is ready. The deep dive of Christopher Nolan's Tenet.
Oh, no.
It's coming to the Deep Dive channel this week, and you're going to see us like count down toward that temporal pincer till we get there. I'd love to, maybe we can talk about it on the break room and answer some questions from you guys. But I want to give you guys like a sense of what's going on the deep dive as well this week. But I'm so excited to have this come out. The video is going to be nearly 2 hours long, maybe over 2 hours long.
Woo, the movie.
We'll tell you exactly what date. It may already be announced what exact date that's going to upload, but I hope you give it some time because it's a great video. It's so good. That's coming. And then beyond that, I think, Jurassic World Rebirth is coming the week after this coming week. So we're going to have like a primer video coming out that just kind of explains the full timeline of the Jurassic Park universe from the 1993 film to the first trilogy and then to the Jurassic World trilogy and just everything that you need to know going into Jurassic World Rebirth. We're going to have that in a video for you just so you can watch that video and kind of otherwise just go right into Jurassic World Rebirth and enjoy yourself. All right, I think we're good. Should we talk about what we're watching?
I'm watching reality TV.
Ooh, baby.
I'm watching Love Island USA. And let me tell you, I'm going to make this quick. If you're watching Love Island USA, I've never really got into Love Island. I also don't really watch Love is Blind. I just am like, I don't like watching shows where people get their hearts broken.
Yeah, it's hard.
If your heart's broken in like Survivor, like you lost a challenge, I'm like, I understand. Like, oh my God, yeah, you almost had it. RuPaul's Drag Race, I'm like, oh, you almost got it. Love, I'm like, keep this away.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, this is, I don't know how to handle this. But this season is insane because it feels like you're rooting for the boys more than you're rooting for most of the girls. And there are 2 girls on there that I love more than anything in life, and that's Alondra and Shelly, 2 beautiful women that are great, and somehow no one's matching with them. And I'm mad about it. I've been going to their Instagram, commenting on their posts like they're there, and being like, you guys need to find love outside of this villa because it's not working. Now, well, if you're watching, you're probably like, Jessica, yeah, Shelly, Amaya, these people, great. Hannah, kind of boring, but very sweet, sweethearted coded. You're like, but what about Jeremiah and Hutta? They're both horrible. Hutta is crazy toxic. I think they're both manipulating each other in a horrible way. The show is meant for you to find love and test love with different people because it's an island of a lot of people. They immediately linked onto each other, started being a leech to one another, just sucking the life out of each other. And they are only like 24. And they have already started this. America voted to get her off the show. If America votes for one person to get off the show, that shows how bad that person probably is.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's all of us. Everybody tuned in to separate the two because they were like, you guys. And the thing is, I'm not even gonna wait. Wait, it's getting closer. It's probably Hutta about to fly a helicopter into the studio. Honestly, the way she hates on all of us. But the worst part is in Love Island, they can't see what the internet's saying. They don't know what's happening. Their friends are usually the ones monitoring their social media. So when they found out America split them up, she was like, America, what is wrong with you guys? Like, you guys don't see the like, what am I not seeing? And everyone's like, that you're toxic, that you're bad for each other. And then she went to talk to Jeremiah, and Jeremiah was like, well, I thought about it. And have you thought maybe what you're saying is bad and manipulative and kind of this and that? She's like, why do you think America hates me? Maybe they hate you. And she did exactly. Sorry. She proved all of our points. I have a group chat where every night I tune in for a second and I say, someone save Iris. Iris is from LA. She was brought in. She got thrown into the middle of their relationship. She's being called the B word, everything left and right. She just showed up. Just this sweet little blonde girl. God help us all. God save Iris. God kick off Hutta. Get her off of here. She's making her life already really horrible by the way she's acting on TV.
Oh my God.
That's the worst part. She's a mom. She was afraid to say it at the beginning. And I understand because you're 24 on Love Island. Like, oh my God, you're going to scare all the 20-year-olds away for some reason. But she was worried about it. And I'm like, girl, you're not looking good on TV. Even if the producers are editing you to look bad, maybe pull back a little bit, because when you get off this show, the internet's gonna make your life fucking hell. And you have a baby. Like, God forbid. But nope, she's not pulling out. She's not pulling out. Go watch it.
I gotta start watching the show.
And you have to start now, because if you are trying to start now and go through, we're about to get to like a part where it's like, you're already off the deep end. I will also say there's a million TikTok accounts you can watch people just recap it, because sometimes I do that. But oh my God, Love Island, people get at me. And if you are Team Hutta, please come and try to explain that to me. Like, and this is not me like being like, fight me. It's me wanting to understand, because I see it, I recognize her. I'm like, yeah, I understand being love bombed and loving this person, but in the duration of time it's been, I'm like, girl, no, it's for the best mentally that you pull yourself away now. Like, if he love bombed you, you gotta pull out. Like, you can't be doing this. You can't be calling all the other girls on the show a bitch. Like, it's crazy. Yeah. Okay, but that's Love Island. Sorry. And I broke the table more than it was, because I'm very passionate about this debate. Also, I think Ace is a villain, but a good villain for television. Okay, keep going. Oh. What are you watching?
What am I watching? It's been 2 weeks since I've been on the sneak peek. I've caught up on a lot. I'm thinking, okay, so I caught up on season 31 of Survivor. That's Cambodia, and it's my favorite season. It's like the second chance season. Excellent season. A+, no notes. Then I watched Mountainhead, the HBO show with Steve Carell and Jason Schwartzman.
The rich people?
Yeah,
How is it?
It's like the most stressful episode of Succession.
Okay, maybe I'm not
because it's Jesse Armstrong. It's like the election night episode of Succession.
Nah, I'm good.
But what if like 4 tech CEOs had this gross ass billionaires club, and they had a retreat every year? And then the issue is, it's similar to Succession, where there are like real world effects of like these high powerful decisions. That's part of the satire of it. But I don't know, it felt like a weak version of a Succession, where things get real wacky and things get so removed from reality, where it becomes a sci-fi scenario of what if like Meta, what if Zuckerberg's Meta and Elon's Twitter, and like, what if they all hung out, and then there was like a special 8K high resolution AI that was super lifelike and believable, that was making everyone in the world mad, lying to them about like sectarian violence, and
it was created by like another friend that was there.
Yeah, one of these guys is like, should I pull the plug on this? And the other one's like, no, don't pull the plug, because my filter that I'm going to put on it is going to make money, so that people know what's real and what's not. And it's an interesting thought experiment. It's almost, you have to watch it with captions, because it's written in tech bro code. And I did not enjoy it. Did not enjoy the experience. I enjoy all these actors, and I enjoy Jesse Armstrong. I didn't enjoy this.
That was like the reason why I wanted to watch it. I also think that plot could really work in maybe a different scenario where it's not a bunch of tech bros making a bunch of money. Not that I am against it, but it's not because they're just so rich that it just makes it unbelievable. It's more so like in Succession, I kind of understood it. Like I was stressed with them. Yeah. This, I'm like, what do you mean? But also,
it felt like it was like,
I'm so sad.
It felt like it was like a version of a Black Mirror episode.
Yeah.
It also felt like it was a play, because it was a fixed location, but it didn't have what I hoped would happen. It was going to be like Hateful Eight, which is based on John Carpenter's The Thing. And I was hoping it was going to be something like that, and it doesn't really go there.
Damn.
It takes a real wacky turn in the third act that I didn't like. I watched 28 Years Later.
Yeah.
Excellent film.
Great.
And I know you're going to be seeing it too.
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
And so Jess will be breaking it down for the New Rockstars channel. I don't want to spoil anything about it, but I really, really loved it. The one I really want to talk about is I've started listening just for a calm Take Me Away podcast.
This can't be Survivor.
No. Good Hang. It's Amy Poehler's new podcast.
Oh, yeah.
That is produced by our friends at The Ringer. Because Bill Simmons, if you make a podcast, he's going to find a way to be an executive producer of it.
Hey, yeah.
It's an excellent podcast if you're a fan of different comedians, everyone who's worked at SNL. The second episode is what I'm on now, and Martin Short is on it, and they taped it right after the SNL 50. And then he talks about how at SNL 50 he did the goodbyes. Like, goodbye everyone, I want to thank so-and-so. He's on the stage at Studio 8H, and Paul McCartney is standing right next to him. He goes, and thank you, Paul McCartney, and thank you so-and-so, thank you so-and-so. And then after the show ended, Fred Armisen came up and pranked him and goes, hey, Marty, you did a good job, but why did you call him Tony McCartney? Why'd you call Paul McCartney Tony McCartney?
Did he?
And then Martin Short was like, oh my God, did I? And he was so
Fred
panicked
do
about
this?
it. And then later he watched back the tape. He's like, I didn't call him Tony McCartney. I called him Paul McCartney. And then Fred just played along like, oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you
That's
knew.
so
It was
funny.
sort of funny bit. They call him Tony McCartney. So I was cracking about that. And then they started talking about Paul Schaefer because Amy Poehler and Marty Short were like, who's the handsomest bald man? And Amy Poehler's like, oh, it's got to be Paul Schaefer, right? You know, Paul Schaefer, the band leader for David Letterman, who has a long history with SNL. He's just this short little bald man who always has goofy sunglasses that he wears.
Oh.
And then Marty Short is like, I've known Paul Schaefer for 50 years. I met him in 1972. And in 1972, he looks like the maitre d' on a spaceship.
That's a good example too. Why does that work so
He
well?
looks like Bunsen, the Muppet, who kind of just like,
a maitre d' on a spaceship.
cabin is over here.
The maitre d' on a spaceship. That's
and
so.
has some weird laugh. I mean,
That's funny as hell.
I that's one of my favorite old Hollywood things is when people just have like the best description of someone. Joan Rivers once said that Mick Jagger looked like he could suck an egg out of a chicken, and I think it's one of the funniest
And he does.
ways to
He
describe
does look
someone.
like it. Martin Short's just so good at doing it also off the cuff because every time I see him do a character, the way he just does analogies for every fucking thing. And I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. But you've never heard it. He tries to say them under like just immediately and then you're supposed to just go by it like he said, a hop, skip, jump. And it's like, no, what the hell did you mean by that?
So it's a great podcast. I mean, I've only listened to the first 2 episodes, but
Is that the one that they did with Rachel Dratch?
Rachel
and
Dratch
the
has
dog,
been on it. Yeah.
The dog was coming.
Oh,
The
I
dog
think
was barking. The
Yes.
door was belling.
So that's
everything.
the first episode, and every episode begins with a Zoom call with other comedy friends of like, what should I ask Martin Short in this episode? So Rachel Dratch was in the first one and couldn't figure out her headphones, and the doorbell rang, and the dog started freaking out.
She has 2 podcasts now because I know because I thought when you said Good Hang, I thought you were talking about her other one where she does. Or no, maybe it might be the same
I
one.
think it's the same one.
Did she do Renee Rapp on the last one?
Ooh, I am not caught up, so I don't know.
Okay, because I saw that one. I didn't know that they were both
I think
the same.
this is her only podcast
Okay,
because
then
she's
it
never
is.
done this before.
Okay.
It's like a whole big thing, and man,
It's good.
you listen to some of these Ringer podcasts, and it's like the brand deals they get. They got Uber Eats sponsoring them. It's like, I wish Uber Eats would sponsor us. Man, I'm
sorry.
I get Chipotle every day.
What? Why Chipotle?
Nom,
You're
nom,
disgusting.
nom. I just
You're
want the
filthy.
sour cream.
I know you
just
do.
to load up one of those burritos.
To be fair, I don't think even when I was at the Ringer, we were like sponsored by a bunch of stuff, and I didn't really see I didn't get like United points.
But you know, Amy Poehler probably does.
Oh, who is it? Who is it? Did we talk about this? Was this us that were talking about it? That like Jason Bateman had to say the ad for his.
It was the Apple Severance podcast.
Yeah,
It
the Apple
was,
Severance podcast. Sorry, yes.
Adam Scott and Ben Stiller. Like,
They have to get
that's
a
a big
piece.
thing now. These celebrities have to read the spots. That was not always the case in podcasting.
And that's probably great to hear Amy Poehler deliver an Uber Eats.
I mean, everyone's doing it. Conan on his Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend.
Yeah.
He's reading the deals.
You get a bunch of money, and this is not to be confused with the like Clash of Clans or Royal whatever that has like Jason Momoa, Chris Pratt playing Monopoly, digital Monopoly. I think those are different things.
Well, we'll leave it there for this episode of Sneak Peek. And again, please check out New Rockstars Underground, our audio subscription service. We're really excited to just try this out. And I think there will be some fun conversations that happen there. I will not call them essential conversations for the New Rockstars YouTube experience. But like, if you care about like us as human beings and people and want to hear those, be a fly on the wall for some of those weird conversations, it might be a fun thing to check out. And we appreciate your support as we try this out. Comment down below with your thoughts on whether you think Mephisto is going to show up in Ironheart, and who do you think James Gunn was talking about?
Who do you think James Gunn was talking about, you guys? And also, if you're Team Hutta, I need you to message me right now.
You can follow Jessica at Lulu_Clemons, follow me at EA Voss, and subscribe to all 4 channels in the new Rockstars Network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.